When you see the whole world shaking and you feel your heart is breaking, take my hand, no hesitating. When you're just so tired of trying, all alone you feel like hiding. Together we'll keep fighting. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feelings will take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Can you see the sun is shining like a new hope? Feel it rising, coming over the horizon. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't stop now. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna mountains too high we can climb it. Feelings will take in the moment. There's no stopping us. Hold on, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. Don't you give up, don't you give up on me. Don't you give up, don't you give up now. There's no stopping.
Good evening. Okay, it's moving slowly. I hopefully it's going to be okay. Actually, let me close this out over here. That might help. Let me do this. Maybe that's why it's a little slow moving. Okay. So let's see if this is better. All right. So it's Saturday, October 22nd, 2022. It's about 10 after 6. I'm recording it now. I'm going to put it on at 7 p.m. Yes, I have an eye patch on. I'm not getting ready for Halloween. It's not going to be a pirate. I have a little vision problem right now that should be corrected hopefully soon. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say now. Getting it checked out. I had a situation like this about 11 years ago, and it's returned. So, but knock on wood, it should be okay. So, I have blurred vision with both eyes, so I cover up the one that I have an issue with, and I could see better. Okay. So, again, we're about a week before Halloween. And the weather's getting a little bit cooler. We're getting into, well, we are in the fall, but we're approaching now the holiday season, so that's pretty exciting. And I'm Chris Gargiulo. I'm an associate broker for eXp Realty, and this is my podcast, Real Estate with Mr. G. And with that, let me just do my little intro. I really like that. I put it together. And again, I said this in an earlier podcast. I'm tired of the dancing videos and the shooting computer graphics. I wanted something Americana, you know, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the mountains to the areas where cows are, where the steers go across, the cattle go across the land, and then I wanted, I have a scene from New York, the subway system, and that's it. That's all of Americana there, and I want to represent all of that. Okay, and I like it. I hope you like it. Um, I've been using it for about the last month, I would say, and I hope it works for you. All right, but we have a lot to talk today, and there's questions about the housing supply and demand and what's happening now. There's a lot of news out there about the real estate because of the issues we're having with the high mortgage rates. And believe it or not, throughout history, mortgage rates have been a lot higher than 7% or 7.25%, which they are now. And homes still sold. I mean, people bought and sold. For many, many years, since I came down to Virginia from Brooklyn, New York, since 2007, we had interest rates at a pretty low level. And then we always talked about, well, they're going to go up, and they're going to go up. And they didn't go up. They stood low for a long time. So we got spoiled at those, 3%, 4%, at times it was actually a little below 3%. And we got spoiled with those mortgage rates. It's almost the same thing, with gasoline. We're complaining, it went up and then it went down a little bit in the last couple of weeks when Saudi Arabia said they weren't going to produce, they were going to cut production to bring the price back up. And then President Joe Biden is going to release more oil from the reserves. And they're coming back down a little bit again. But still, except for California and maybe some other Western Seaboard states, we still, on average, have been paying a lot less than Europe. A lot less. So when Europeans, especially I have family, my sister is in England, when we complained about it going to $4, they laughed. They said, that's nothing. That's nothing. So even though the prices are going higher, we are still fortunate than many other countries, except for California. Where now my daughter and husband and grandchildren live, right? They have the issue of the high prices out there. But on average, when you go throughout the states, gas prices are still a lot lower than it is in Europe. So same thing with mortgage rates. We were really spoiled for a long time with 3-4% in mortgage rates. Now they're up to 7%. And people are uneasy. They're waiting. They're saying not now. And but there are situations where you have to move, right? You want to get out of a renting situation. You're moving. You're going to another town and a city. You're being transferred. And you have to purchase a home. And we still recommend purchasing a home rather than renting because the rents, forget about it. Forget about it. They're up super high. So, but there are different ways to work about it when it comes to buying. And I did podcast on that before. I think I have here still from my last two podcast. Let's see if I still have it here. What things you could do to deal with these higher mortgage rates. Ask loan officer if you could buy down the interest rate, because you're able to do that. And you could also ask for seller concessions, where the seller is giving you money at closing to help buy down the rate. All right. Best to speak to your loan officer about that, and depending on what type of loan you're getting, you might be getting up to 6% back that you could ask for from the seller. Now you're asking for it; it's not guaranteed that you will get it. All right, you could ask for it. All right, and again, depending on how much money you could put down in the beginning. I mean, you could either buy down this interest rate and maybe buy it down by an eighth a point or a quarter of a point. But if you have a lot of money that you could put down, not only will you buy down the interest rate, but of course, the more money, if you have a lot of money to put down, and this is besides buying down the interest rate. As you put down more money, and we talked about this last week, the bank feels more confident about this loan, and they'll say, okay, all right, we said it's 7.25. You buy down, we'll give you 7% or 6.89 or whatever, and you'll get a better rate because the loan is stronger. All right, you have more equity in the house. The bank is lending you less money, and it's a safer loan. All right. So number 2, I said make a larger down payment. Inquire about grant programs. And I'm glad that came up. I spoke to another agent this week, and through the realtor organization, they're looking for ways where there could be more money available in grant money for first-time home buyers that you could use towards your down payment and or your closing cost. All right. And other things you could do, I realized living down here, we have a lot of military. Once you're in the military, you go to a automotive lot, and they don't have, well, you're in the military, you signed up for 4 or 5 years. We know you have a guaranteed income for those years. So you could buy the biggest, meanest car there is. And I found out a lot of young people have these super duper expensive cars with a big monthly car payment. And sometimes we got them their loans they refinance it, or they just trade it in for a less expensive car. And this is something else I want people to consider, the adjustable rate mortgage. All right. And if you work with it carefully, it could help you. So let's say this is your first home. It's not your forever home. And you think you're going to be in there no longer than 5 years. All right. So the introductory rate to the adjustable rate mortgage is usually below the fixed rate. So for instance, if right now we're at 7%, the introductory rate might be 2 or 3%. So for the first couple of years, you will be paying below the current mortgage rate. All right. But throughout the years, that could increase. And there are different products out there, it stays or it creeps up during 7 years. And, at the 7th year, you'll be at the higher rate. And that higher rate, okay, in that gap, all right, maybe from 2 to, let's say, 8%. All right. And you might, at one point in the term of your loan, will be paying a higher mortgage rate than the current one. All right. But if you know you're not going to be in that house longer than 5 years, 6 years, it may be something to consider. And you'll be paying a mortgage below the current market rate for a fixed rate mortgage. Okay. So you got to play it very carefully. Now, if you end up staying longer, you could always refinance that loan, but then you're going to have closing costs or whatever. I mean, if you end up staying there longer, and you're going to be there, a good amount of time, it may be a good idea to refinance it and pay whatever closing costs there are. And of course, I put down buy now rather than later as rate increases, because we are still expecting rates to increase, because the Federal Reserve will meet again next month, and most likely they will increase the Fed funds rate, and that's the rate that the Federal Reserve will charge to banks for them to borrow money from them. And then usually it's like a domino effect and will reach the mortgage market. All right. So let's look at today's, let's put this on the screen. And I'm not that nice little ball there. The latest on supply and demand in housing. Now, of course, and it makes sense, as these rates go up. But the big term right now, by the way, in real estate is this inflection point. You know, that's where we are. We're at an inflection point, all right, where we're having some changes going on. So prior to these mortgage rates going up, buyer demand was strong. Here they're gauging it by the amount of showings, all right? And this is a service that agents use to when they have listings, instead of you calling the agent directly, and when I say you, I should really say the buyer's agent, when they call to see if the house is available and if they could show it, instead of them calling the listing agent, they're actually calling, it's showing time. That's one of the services that are out there. And they will set up, the appointments, and if there's a tenant there or if people are still living there, they'll set up that appointment for people to view. All right, so they're saying that it's down 12.2%, okay? And that's pretty low. That's going down there, all right? But the amount of active listings is up. So we have a good situation and a bad situation. So those showings are down. There are more listings out there. And this is, in a way, good news for buyers. So even though you have a higher mortgage rates, you got to deal with that, right? But at least you don't have to deal with competition, a lot of competition. Many buyers bidding on one property. So that's good. So you got rid of that headache. You just have to see if I could somehow bring this mortgage rate down. So that's a good thing. All right, and here's just bringing up the things that we just talked about. It was 12% compared to the same time last year. Now, for a look at how housing supply has changed, turn to the green bar, and you see that the listings are up about 27% this year. Now, this is existing homes. There's some talk that some developers are now holding back from building because of the high interest rates, and there'll be less people in the market buying. That's something of a concern as well. So what does an inflection point mean for buyers? If you're thinking of buying a home, you'll have less competition and more options than you would have had last year. Enjoy having more homes and choose from in your home search, and lean on a trusted real estate professional like Chris Gogolo to understand how the increase in supply has also increased your negotiation power. That professional can talk you through the opportunities and challenges buyers face in today's shifting market. You may be surprised to find they're different than they were a year ago. And that's true. That's very true. And what does this inflection point, right? I said that's the key term now, inflection point. If you're looking to sell your house, know that inventory is still low overall. That means if you work with an agent to price your house based on current market value, it will still sell despite the inventory gains and moderating buyer demand this year. That's because there are still buyers out there who want to move, and your house may be exactly what they're looking for. Okay? So nice, happy stuff. Happy. Uh, we always try to look on the positive side of the market. All right. But we know, well, let's leave it that way. Okay. I might do a podcast on really, I don't want to say the negative things and pause on it, but there's so many articles out there about, where we're going through into recession. Of course, it's going to hit the housing market, and we're going to have a lot of supply and very few buyers, and that may or may not happen. We're really at a pivotal point here right now, and we'll see. Okay, I really think, in my point of view, we really have to get this inflation down, especially, with groceries. I do the majority of food buying in our family because I enjoy food, and I'll get more of the upscale items. Maybe not upscale, but anyway, and I really see a difference. Okay, when it comes to eggs, when it comes to bacon. There's definitely, when it comes to butter, when it comes to buying bread, homemade bread, rolls. So it's definitely out there, and it kind of hurts. And we have to buy food every week, right? You don't have to buy a home all the time. You don't have to buy a car all the time, right? Okay, but we have to buy food every day, and we have to put gas in our cars. So these are kind of heavy issues that are going on right now. And so to really say where the real estate market is going at this point, we could take a snapshot picture of it right now. The same way when I was learning accounting, when I was going for my master's of business administration, like the accounting records is like the snapshot of the business at that point in time. Okay, the day that they put together those accounting records, the balance sheets, whatever, that's a picture of it at that time. So we could tell you how the real estate market is doing at this time, or that, if we're talking about today, right? How it's doing now. But what happens in a couple of months could be completely different. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and we have to, what they like with the boxes, so you bob, and you move around, and you avoid the punches, and you try to work it that way. So that's what we need to do, and that's what I'm here to help you do, as well as someone to listen to via my podcast and my blog, and when you hire me as an agent. Okay, so let's see. I do have a video that leans more towards the let's see, the seller. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, it says don't be afraid. Okay, first let me show. Actually, this would be better for next week, but it came up now, so I'll show you this little bit. Actually, that's a very good video because it's saying how I could advise you with with dealing with today's current market conditions. Now, one thing that that video brings up, and I'm going to show it. Let's see. I want to make sure I have it over here. Okay, 3 questions you may be asking about selling your house today. And should I sell? Should I wait to sell? I don't think so, because we still, even though the inventory is growing, we still need more homes. So there's probably a good chance that your house will be sold within 30 to perhaps 60 days. Buyers still out there? Yes, they are. Okay. They have more concerns right now because of mortgage rates, okay, going up. But they are still out there looking. And can I afford my next home? Now, this is the point I want to bring here, because don't forget, if you put your house on the market, and you're most likely you're buying another home, right? You might be going into a larger home. So with the increase in equity we had in the last 2 to 3 years, right, where home prices went up about 24%, you will have more equity in your house. So when you sell your house, and hopefully you're selling it for a lot more than what you have as an outstanding balance with your mortgage, and it's very possible that you may have your mortgage completely paid off, right? So now you have a lot more money. You could buy your next house, hopefully put down a really big down payment, or maybe pay for it in cash. Maybe you did so well that you had your mortgage paid off and you had cash coming over. So that's the positive thing for sellers, because they may be nervous about, well, I put on my house on the market. When I buy a house, I'm dealing with 7% mortgages now. But if you have enough equity built up in your house and you sell your house, you have a nice big chunk of money to put down on your next one, and hopefully have a very low mortgage payment. Okay. So, and remember, on on my blog, I have the Fall Buying Guide, and this just came out about a month ago. These guides are updated every quarter. We have things to consider buying a home, the Fall 2022 edition, as well as things to consider when selling your home. Again, the Fall 2022 edition. And where could you get these wonderful things here that I want to read about this. I want to learn how to do this, but I'm still going to use Mr. G to buy my home, to sell my home. And you go to realestatewithmrg.blog, resource materials, and you could download it for free. Okay. So let me get rid of this. Go back to here, and we'll get rid of this graphic here and go here. Okay, so I showed you the video. I showed you that chart. So I hear from my producer, William Burgess, that in the audience we have 2 Japanese, I think they're some sort of acrobatics. Is that true, William? Okay, hold on.
Yes, Chris, we have 2 acrobatic performers from Japan in our audience, brothers Akihiko and Akimitsu Yamamoto. While growing up, they were told not to use their hands and throw items around the apartment. So not to disobey their parents, they used their feet. To develop this skill so well, they began traveling in circuses throughout Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, the Yamamoto brothers.
Well, that was good. I'm glad they stopped by. It was a great act. Thank you, William, for introducing them to us. Okay. So I'll see you next week. Next Saturday, I actually have a procedure. I'll do my best to record earlier. And then I have a procedure. And then we have trunk or treat at our church. So I'm going to do my best to get in my next podcast by, again, next Saturday at 7 p.m. In the meantime, be kind to each other. All right. And remember, I'm getting my closing thing up here. Remember, the greatest power we have is the love, and the greatest gift, each other. And we'll see you next week.